No. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is day 2 of Global Innovation Ecosystem Summit. जब भी बात innovation की आती है तो absolutely हर किसी के जहन में IBM जरूर आता है. So today, second days 2 of GIES is completely dedicated to IBM. So we will start with session with Miss Susan. So Miss Susan, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. And I'm going to give a small overview of some elements of activities in data and AI and ways that you can contribute to this domain and through open source and in other ways. And I'll also talk briefly about some open source dojos, which are intense classes that we run to teach people how to contribute to open source. I work in IBM in the United States. I work in the Open Technologies Group. I've also been much involved with hackathons over a period of maybe 10 years, and more recently, of course, with some famous hackathons called for Code, which have to do with handling natural disasters, COVID, climate change, and other items. Including, we have a special one around mental health running at the moment, or about to run with universities. So over now to the presentation. So it'll be in two parts. I'll pick on some activities that are important in AI at the moment, and then, and they're just a selection. There are many hugely important activities in AI. And then I'm going to talk about open source and the Linux Foundation and trusted AI in the Linux Foundation. And then I'll mention an upcoming Data and AI conference, which you can submit proposals to. And I'll try and paste all the links right after this session in the chat. Okay, so one of the big things that is happening at the moment with AI is actually trying to make it easier for people who aren't necessarily expert data scientists and developers who maybe don't have so much of a background in data science to get started quickly with data science. And you'll see lots of companies, lots of projects around automating artificial intelligence. So a tool can build the model which will make the predictions for you. And even expert data scientists quite like that, because it can speed up identifying a few models that might be quite handy for a project, and then they can enhance and use their expertise to improve the model in a more detailed way. So one of the automated projects, the automated AI projects, is called Auto AI. And Auto AI is, it takes your data and then it works on cleaning it a little bit, meaning it will maybe do some detection of missing values and fill them in. It will select a few models. It will, through trial and error, and then it will from a set of models that it selects, it will then go and do something called hyperparameter optimization, which is essentially messing around with the settings and for the model, and then it will do some feature engineering. And you can actually go and look at some materials on Auto AI, and I'm just going to exit this presentation if I can, and just open this link for you, just so that you can see what you can find out. And you'll find there's a lot of materials here which will help you get started with Auto AI. And going back to the presentation, you can see that there's also a very nice Coursera course, which I think just became available today or in the last couple of days. And I do recommend that you look at that. It's a few hours. It goes. You can execute it over a few weeks, 4 weeks, and these are the topics. It gets you started with a rabbit prototype. You can do some data preparation, and then it will help you understand how you can guide auto AI with feature engineering and hyperparameter optimization and do an even better job. And then do the deployment of the solution that you've come up with in collaboration with Auto AI. So it's a human, you collaborating with the tool to create a nice model to make predictions. And I highly recommend going to this wonderful brand new course on automated AI. Now, these tools, in particular Auto AI, actually generates a notebook for you, and you can enhance the notebook with more improvements that you might decide to do. And one of the places that is becoming very popular over the last few years is to participate in contests. A contest is a way that you can exercise your skills and compete with others or learn from others, and then be ranked and just essentially get better and better at doing data science. So one of the big places where people do contests is called Kaggle. And Kaggle has about 180,000 people ranked in 4 categories. The categories are contests or competitions, discussions, so you can be ranked for how well you collaborate with the community, how nice your notebooks are, how self-explanatory they are. To when you participate in a contest after you finish, you can share your notebook and explain how you did what you did. And then data sets. So data sets are at the heart of data science, and a Kaggle contest is around a particular data set. You can contribute data sets, but companies also contribute data sets, and usually they'll make a contest or a competition around a data set. And when you compete in a competition on Kaggle, you compete against what's called the public leaderboard, and then finally they hold back some data, you see. And then finally at the end, in order to rank everybody for the winning, you run against the private data set that was held back, the portion of the data set that was held back, and then your final result comes out on the leaderboard, on the private leaderboard. You can see how well you've really done. So sometimes people just focus on the public data set, and then they fall into the problem that they just focus on what they've seen, and there's something called overfitting that happens when you actually make your model just work with the data that's exposed. So the contest also it's forcing you to compete on the data in general, and that's why they hold back some of the data set on which you compete.
So, Susan, I have a question here. Is this data publicly available as well, or the one they hold back is like it's not for open source or open use?
Right. No, they hold it back. It's not available. It's not available. It's, and when you participate in a contest, you undertake not to share. Also, very often in the contest. So let's I'll go to Kaggle in a moment, but there are rules for each data set, and the rules are generally that you can't use beyond the contest itself. Of course, if you personally or have shared a data set that you just want people to use, that's fine. But very often so if you want to host a contest, you cannot host a contest on a data set that's completely available. You have to have a data set where part of it is being held back. And so you can't just take some public data set and say, okay, we're going to have a real contest around it. It always has to have some data that's not available to anyone until the final stages of the final stage of the contest. So that's one. And then the other, when you compete, always read the rules for the data set. Always check what you're allowed to do. And very often when you're competing, you just can work with your team, but you mustn't publicize the data that's even there in general for a lot of contests. But there are some exercise data sets. There are lots of them, and you can go and learn from using those data sets. And sorry, was there another point?
Nope. No, I said, yeah, got it.
Okay, good. And in the discussion category, you're ranked on how well you talk to people, how helpful you are. So, even if you're not so much into contests, you could be you could do very well in maybe discussions and also sharing your notebooks. And also, maybe making a data set, maybe making a data set about your region that maybe there isn't a good data set for maybe this, or extending an existing data set and making it available, provided it's, you have to check the rules for a data set. And you can see in the you can be classified as a grandmaster, a master, an expert, a contributor, or a novice. When you get started, you're typically a novice. The biggest category is the contest category and the competitions category. There are people in all the other categories, and it's a great prestige to sort of go up these ranks. Moving on to the next slide. A lot of people in IBM have started doing Kaggle contests, and I'm going to just go to this, and I've been writing blogs and so on. One of the classic data sets to get started in Kaggle is called the Titanic data set, where it's a list of passengers and you predict who survived and who didn't. And I'm going to exit and go to one of the blogs that a colleague wrote, and we'll just go and look at that. So if you are someone who just wants to get started, you can get started with this blog. And it uses actually auto AI, the automated AI method, to submit the first solution. So this is an awesome way if you're not really a professional data scientist yet, but you can use the automated AI, follow this blog, and go and use the Titanic data set. It gives you step-by-step how to including how to submit your results to Kaggle. And then there's another blog entry, which I'm briefly going to show, which is a collection of a lot of blogs and notebooks that IBMers have prepared. And that's another place you can go to see. So there's the getting started, the hello world, but there's a lot of other ones, a lot of other blogs and notebooks using pandas, using different techniques, KNN, PyCaret, and then using other data sets. These are all people who are choosing to share their knowledge with you, and it's great fun. And this is somebody who's actually making a data set for the Middle East and North Africa, and you can read about her work. It might inspire you to create a data set, to do something a little different, to contribute to the community. Okay, moving on. So these are some suggestions for you. So we've talked a little bit about automated AI now. We've talked a little bit about contests. And I will say there are other kinds of contests. There are many contests at conferences as well. So it's not just Kaggle. So you may, if you're an expert and you deal with a particular kind of modeling or a particular kind of data that maybe Kaggle doesn't do so much of, you can look at some conferences. They run contests as well. Now, a third thing that's another trend that I just wanted to share with you is people want more transparency in AI. And this is still like a developing project, but I wanted to share with you because there'll be more happening on this in the future. And this project is called Factsheets. And it mimics it's the same idea. When you buy food, there are usually labels to say how many calories, what are the contents, the ingredients, and so on. The same, this is an analogous idea for being able to look at a model and tell and be told what's in it. So the fact sheet is a template of questions which then the creator of the model will fill in and produce a fact sheet to describe what's in the fact sheet. And what I'm describing is a human-based activity, but in fact, it could become more automated in the future. And, you know, it could be in the extent that you could not only compare models as well by looking at their fact sheets, but maybe programmatically even compare models by looking at their fact sheets to decide what model to use. So the questions, as I said, are filled in typically by the model creator, or it could be a third party who is learning about the model. And it doesn't just cover the model, but it covers the data that it was trained on, what use cases it's good for, what use cases it isn't so good for, and so on. So, this is all part of the effort to increase transparency. A lot of these fact sheets have been created for some models called the Model Asset Exchange. And it's a place you can go where you'll find some open source models that you can download and exercise. And so one of the models is Object Detector, which can identify objects and create bounding boxes around the objects that it discovers. The Model Asset Exchange, you can also try to execute the model. You can try it from a web app and so on. So there are a few options. So what we've done is created fact sheets for some of these models to help with developing this fact sheet project and initiative. And so these are the questions that the creator of the object detector answered, and this on the right is the answer. So the overview, the purpose, what domain, what training data set was used, and you can see all the answers. And you know, it's explaining that it was based on TensorFlow. It used the COCO validation data set. And how many images, because it's of course, because it's an object detection engine, it needs images and it explains where it doesn't perform well as well. So that's kind of the first half of the session, just outlining some trends, some activities, automated AI, contests. A lot of people are learning through contests, hosting contests, finding jobs through contests, and then the final was increased transparency and through fact sheets. Now we're going to move on to the open source piece. And one of the consortia in the AI domain is the Linux Foundation AI group. And they've made this amazing landscape diagram. And I'm also going to go to it just so that you see that you can actually interact with it. It's not just a diagram. It's not just a diagram. It's a living document. Okay, so you can go in by category. You can see open source projects for frameworks, for platforms, for library, for versioning, for notebooks, SQL engines, open source tools, workflow, marketplaces for AI. So let's if we go into the card mode, I think that this is a marketplace, and you can find out more about it. These are all open source projects. Another one is Onyx, which is an exchange format between different execute frameworks. So if you want to export a model and import it into another environment, Onyx is an exchange format for models, and it's an amazing site. It actually it has 294 projects, open source projects listed. Market cap, those are the companies that and institutions that own the open source. Not all of these open source projects are in the LFAI. The LFAI just made the landscape so that we can see what's available in open source. And these are companies that are hosting projects at the LFAI, like Tencent. We see IBM there, a lot of big companies. Now, this is a great organization, and at the end, I've got some links how you can participate in this institution. It is a community-based institution. There are members, corporate members, but you as an individual can also participate. So going back to the presentation, we'll just carrying on here. One of the open source projects that IBM donated very recently to the Linux Foundation is some adversarial robustness toolbox, which is a way that you can avoid people breaking into your model, and so you can defend it. There are points. Let's say a model is deciding whether something's a cat or not a cat. There's a boundary, and there's a very nice description which you can go to if you follow the project link, which will show that you could it's possible to break a model so that it comes back and say that a cat, an image that is of a cat isn't a cat, for example. This is a very important project to prevent attacks on models. And another project is to handle bias in machine learning algorithms. So let's say one gender is being preferred over another. Let's say when offering loans, it's that kind of thing that it helps you. The toolkit in the AI Fairness 360 helps you deal with that. And another one is the explainability toolbox, which will help you understand how a model reached its decision. And these were all formerly IBM projects, but have been donated to the Linux Foundation because that way a bigger community can be built around these, and the projects can grow. And they are awesome projects to work on, these trustworthiness. That kind of fits in also with the fact sheets, which is more at the moment more human intensive project. But these are related projects, which are programmatic projects, which help ensure your AI can be trusted.
Yeah, Susan, all these projects are available now, right? Like anyone can go and access them.
Yes, they are absolutely available. And let's just go and look at the links. They're available through the Linux Foundation. So these links, as I say, I'm going to paste I have all the links together in one place, and I will let's just open this link. For example, every one of them is public and available. So this is the AI Fairness 360. You can go and look at it. It's mailing lists you can join. You can go and look at the GitHub for it, and see what algorithms. So we're looking at the fairness one. So these are the different algorithms that are that are contained in it and to help you mitigate bias. And the way fairness is being measured, it's got a few different ways. So yes, they're all available, these 3 projects, for you to get started on, should you wish to. Now, so also I've kind of got a bigger picture of the landscape here, and you can see also the projects have been added, the explainability. There are other projects too, so this that are related. So these diagrams include everybody's open source projects, and only a subset are at the Linux Foundation, but it's just to get an idea of the whole landscape of what's happening in AI. And then we also have a very nice website at IBM, an open source website. I'll just quickly go to it because you can learn a lot about how to work with open source, how to contribute, and also to see all the IBM open source projects that are around as well through GitHub. Let me just go back. You can also see there's a blog about announcements, community, culture projects, but also if you're working at a company that was wanting to adopt open source, you can learn a lot or contact us about how to adopt open source in a corporation as well. That's something that we do as well. So this is a very nice site. And moving on from this slide, we've been running education, very intensive education on open source projects. Many have been internal, but I'm going to highlight a couple of external ones where you can actually go in and take the education for free and learn how to contribute to an open source project. One of the projects we've done is Egeria, and it's 3 days intensive education. You don't have to do all 3 days, you can pick and choose. But Egeria is a project to help tools that store metadata to share the metadata that they have with each other. Very often, it's very hard when you have data about data, to share it across analytics tools, across database tools, and ETL tools, extract, transform, and load tools, and so on. And Egeria is an open source project that helps to share the metadata. And the education explains the use cases of Egeria, this open source project. It's in Java. And so if you're a Java person, it will be perfect project for you. How to set up Egeria, how to understand the repositories, and how to do a pull request, which is what you need to do to get involved. And then here's a public Slack where you can join the community if you want to. Again, I'll give that link. Another open source project that which is hugely popular at the moment, is Kubeflow. And Kubeflow enables machine learning pipelines when you're running Kubernetes. I have to say, the education that we ran, which is also available on YouTube, like the Egeria education, it was very, very popular. And again, you learn about Kubeflow, and then you learn about how to deploy it, and then you learn how to do a pull request as well, and you understand all the repositories should you want to be an open source contributor. Finally, I'm going to mention there is a Data and AI digital conference coming up in November. And if you want to speak at it or contribute an idea, I've also got the link here. The deadline for you to submit is September 1st. But if you have an idea you'd like to present, why not? Go for it. It's a great opportunity. And I'm just going to go now. I wonder if it's easy I can stop now, I'm done, but I've got a lot of useful links and I'd like to paste these in the chat. Can I do that?
Susan, I'll be sharing them later on with them.
Okay.
Right now, So you can just Slack me and I'll share them with
I
the.
will Slack you. Okay, great. I'll stop sharing now. I think is this.
Susan, we have a question from the
Yes.
audience. It's more related to the startups. They're asking how should we plan to scale up the tech of our startup if we are using open source to develop our tech?
So, okay. So the question is, you're using open source to develop your tech, and you want to scale up. Meaning, do you mean scale up? Meaning, like make the software more scalable? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid that's just hard work. So the way to do that, even if you think that you're going to need to scale up the software beyond what it is at the moment, I would right away connect with the community and see if they're interested. It's much better to work with the community that surrounds the open source project, rather than see if they are willing, if it's something in their roadmap. Most open source projects have a roadmap, and it's better to try and work with the open source project, try and convince them to, and if they don't want to do what you want to do, then there's very little. You can fork the code and then make your own version. But then if the project is active, you will miss out with all the new enhancements that are going into the project. So first step, I would say, to scale up, talk to the community leaders right away to see what's in their roadmap.
Got it. Okay, so Susan, before you leave, we have the Vice Chancellor of Lahore Garrison University, and he wants to say a few words, and he's on screen right now, so he would like to say a few words with you and audience.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you.
Hi, Susan.
Hello there.
Yeah, it was wonderful to listen to you. Actually, I was looking forward to all this because Asma is one of our most dear ones, and she is part and parcel of this package, as I call it. Actually, we call it pandemic. Actually, we want to distribute innovation within Pakistan as a pandemic.
I see a positive pandemic.
Yeah, positive pandemic.
Okay.
And we also call it mafia in short. So we want actually these two terms to be a buzzword here, so that people should actually just grab everything over it. But coming back to this, it was a wonderful thing, and I'm sure once you share it with Asma, this is our normal routine that we share it on the blog, as well as share with all those participants who are sitting here.
Great.
My question is, I thought this is one of very, very nice platforms here. Although I am a software engineer, but I'm an old software engineer where I did my degree in computer science in '76. So maybe I might not be maybe not very explicit in my question. But I have been interested in this all, and that is why my students, I've been actually, even at this stage, I do share my thoughts with them. Now, this particular IBM AI software availability, especially the open source, are we dealing with only the narrow side of the AI, or is it the general side also, some projects on the general side also? What I mean to say is it also going towards those human elements going into the neural networks, and they are also available here as an open source models?
Of course, yes. So many of the software much of the software that you can use is also based on neural networks, and the famous ones are like TensorFlow and PyTorch. Those are based on neural nets, and you will find that you can access, and they are open source, and you can access them through tools from corporations, but you can access them directly. So absolutely, neural networks, one of the big changes in the last few years has been a move from basic machine learning techniques to neural networks, exactly as you described.
Mm-hmm. So let's come to a very specific one. We have been teaching this, and we have been actually not an introduction, but about 1.5 years back, we started off with this, and we have plenty of people who are, I would still say they are not at a very, very good level, but they are trying to catch up with whatever they can. We had designed a system where we called it an attendance system. This was something we did away with the biometrics, and we just installed a few cameras and took the image processing side of the artificial intelligence, employed it so that once the students come into the university, nobody is seeing them, only the cameras see them, and then they keep grabbing them. We have about distributed 300 cameras on the campus. So by the time he leaves, we wanted that we should have a database which tells us where they all have been, how many have actually attended the classes, because when they're in the class, the camera takes on and gives us the attendance also. So attendance is automated. When anybody dropping below the standards, he's also automatically given a message or an email that you are falling short of your attendance. And similarly, we can, check up all the activities, whatever going on. So this type of system, we thought that there should be building blocks, and we should keep, the building blocks should be available to us, and we join them together and the whole model comes up. Is there any software which does this job? Like instead of going through the whole programming and coding and everything, we just have these made up blocks by input and output definition, and we just join them together to make a complete model. Asma, I think we have lost Susan.
I was speaking to mute. The automated AI projects, that's kind of what they're trying to do, to create, you give them the data, you give them some important things information about the data, and they pull together the model for you. It's early days, but that's what these automated AI systems are doing. And there's quite a lot of them. So it's a very fruitful area of research, actually, to generate models automatically. I think that's
great. That's great because, it becomes, the people become more enthusiastic once they see their results in a shorter period of time. We somehow become very people who they can't wait for long. Somehow the other generation.
Yeah, so you may want to take a look at the Coursera course that I mentioned earlier, because for the because that could be very nicely, it could be, something like that could be taught as lectures as well, and to how to create a model. I will say though, when I was listening to you, I was very scared because of GDPR. we're very focused on not sharing personal information. So I know it varies from country to country, but I assume people have agreed to be filmed. So.
Actually, we believe in global village, and we want to share data from all over.
Okay, great, good.
Well, Susan, it was wonderful. Really, I'm not in a habit of mincing words, but I think you have given us some sort of a direction which we were looking for quite some time, ever since we started with this AI about 1.5 years back. Once again, grateful for that, Nasma, for contributing towards this. IBM Pakistan, I think there must be given that credit for it also.
Thank you so much for having me. And I will say, if you are interested in onboarding people to open source, again, that's something we'd be delighted to collaborate with universities to get students onboarded. We've been doing that a little bit in the US, just to get people onto projects. And there are 1 or 2 universities in the US who have open source departments, actually. So anyway, just another suggestion, another idea.
Yeah, we will take Asma on board, and I think we already have a very good collaboration with IBM Pakistan.
Awesome.
I think we will chalk it out, because as far as Coursera is concerned, we are already a preferred university for Coursera. We have about 7,000 courses already being offered by them to us. It's on our website. So we are already, I will try to pick out this course also. I didn't see that because maybe we have to request for that.
It's
But
brand new. It's brand
yeah,
new.
that's why. That's why. Otherwise, we are actually in collaboration with them with 7,000 almost courses for our
Excellent. Excellent.
various subjects. Yeah, I'm one of the, I think, the largest user of Coursera over in this university. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Over to you, Asma.
Thank you so much. I think now we will take like 5 minutes break before we can move on to the hands-on session. Huzaifah would be conducting the hands-on session. I'll over to you when you the audience.
Yes. So, Huzaifah, can you hear us?
Yep,
Yeah,
loud and
thank you.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our second session. इसमें हम सीखेंगे hands-on practice. Whenever we are introducing a platform, we get our initial customers. Based on characteristics of initial customers, based on their behavior, it's important कि हम categorize करें, हम कैटेगराइज कर पाएंगे उनका बिहेवियर क्या है हमारे टैग के साथ, वो कैसे आ रहे हैं, कैसे लॉग इन हो रहे हैं, कैसे लॉग आउट हो रहे हैं, अगर वो कोई चीज़ बाय कर रहे हैं या फिर सेल कर रहे हैं तो उनका बिहेवियर क्या है, उनके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स क्या है। इन सब के लिए हमें एक नॉलेज होनी चाहिए। उस नॉलेज या उस स्किल का नाम डेटा साइंस है, जिसमें हम अपने सारे कस्टमर्स की बिहेवियरल्स कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हम एक डेटा में कैटेगराइज करके हम एक इंफॉर्मेशन निकाल लेते हैं जो कि नेसेसरी होती है हमारे लिए, ताकि हम अपने कस्टमर्स को स्केल अप कर सकें। सो फॉर दैट IBM Huzaifah from IBM will be joining us. He will be giving hands-on practice through IBM Studio, जिसमें वो हमें AI and machine learning use करना सिखाएंगे through data science. So over to you, Huzaifah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let me share my screen. I hope there's no noise in the background.
No, there isn't. So please minimize your window. Yeah.
Okay, so please confirm if you can see the presentation in the slideshow.
Yes, it's perfect.
All right, so thank you everyone. Welcome first of all to the summit, and say a few lines regarding our developer series. So basically, developer advocates from all around the world, we have this webinar series because during this whole lockdown situation, it's very necessary to stay up to date to what's the latest trend and the advancement in the AI and data science and even all of the technology world. So we have Cloud Native Thursdays. The name basically explains for itself. We basically have different days for different topics. So on Thursdays, we have webinars regarding Cloud Native. Similarly, on Fridays, we have our data science webinars, and we discuss OpenShift on Saturdays, and we talk about AI on Sundays. So this is the meetup page. I would highly recommend you to please keep an eye on this because we keep on posting about the upcoming webinars on this meetup page. So let's talk about my topic today. So basically, as Agha explained very precisely what data science is, I'm here to talk about some practical applications and basically provide you the necessary information regarding IBM's tools when it comes to data science and AI. So my name is Huzaifah Saleem, and I'm a developer advocate for IBM Pakistan. These three are the links that I have also posted in the chat. First link is necessary for every one of you because through this link, you will be able to get your IBM Cloud account for this hands-on workshop, and for the next, you will be needing the IBM Cloud account. So I suggest that you open the first link and you register your own IBM Cloud account. Even if you have one previously, I would highly recommend to log in through this link, since it will give you some free cloud credits. Then I have this, the second link is basically the code pattern that we'll be following today. It's just for your convenience. So if you are not able to follow me during this live session, then you can always go back to this link and then, study it thoroughly. Then the third link is basically the dataset link. So this is the data set that we'll be using today. I'll talk about our use case later on. So let's talk about what's my agenda today. So first of all, I will be explaining some basics regarding machine learning. Then I'll be talking about automated machine learning, or auto ML. And then I'll be introducing auto AI, which is an offering by IBM to automate your whole AI lifecycle. And then we will be going on to the hands-on. So first of all, you've been hearing a lot about these words. These are kind of buzzwords nowadays: AI, machine learning, AI ML. Some people use it like that. Deep learning. So what this really is, it's actually subsets of each other. So we have a broad domain. We have this whole AI approach or a technique. So basically, I would say it's a view that instead of just keeping or just entering inputs, human inputs all the time to our program, or basically programming each and every task that we want to achieve, why not enable machines or enable programs to actually do that for themselves? So we just provide input for the first time, and then our program or our software should be able to proceed and improve with time. And then we have this machine learning, which is actually a subset of AI as a whole. So I talked about it as well, that so basically enabling machines, let the machines learn, let our program learn any advancement in our code or any advancement in our process. So for example, we have trained it for the first time, we have given every necessary input for the first time, but then if anything changes, the machine should similarly produce new outputs related to that changed input. And then we have deep learning, which is further a subdomain, or I would say a subset of machine learning, in which we try to portray our human brain. So basically, I'm sure all of you know that our brain is made of neurons, and we have different neurons which take the input from the previous neuron, and then maybe do something or just transfer it as it is to the next neuron. So that's the same structure that we follow when we are trying to work on deep learning. So we create neural networks, and these are similar to our neurons structure. And then basically every input is, I would say, driven through these different nodes. So let's talk about auto ML, or automated machine learning. This is, I would say, a very convenient advancement in machine learning, as it just sounds so fascinating when you're talking about that. A machine should be able to do this. Our program automatically predicts something or classifies something, but there is actually quite of an effort that goes on in the first development. So it's basically very, very time consuming, it requires a lot of expertise and knowledge, because before starting to solve a data science problem or a machine learning problem, you need to make sure that your approach is going to work. So you need to basically lay out the whole plan of how you're going to solve this problem, what kind of data set that you will require, what kind of transformations that you will have to perform, and then most importantly, what kind of or what algorithm would be optimal for your problem, which algorithm would result in high accuracy or highest accuracy. So this is the whole view behind the creation of automated machine learning, that these efforts or these gaps should be bridged. So this is the typical life cycle, I would say, and it's not I would like it's not the universal life cycle. It might have some steps, or it might have some extra steps, or it might not have some of these steps that I've mentioned here. But this is the pretty much the generic version of the AI life cycle. So first of all, when you are facing with a problem, you try to gather as many business requirements or business terms as you can, and then you have to collect your data for that specific problem. A lot of enterprises use data warehousing, and then for each problem they use data marts. So basically for each problem they have to collect data, relevant data. And then you always have to do some transformations. There is a very rare chance that you will get the data like in exactly the form that you want. A lot of times, I guess most of the times, you have to perform some transformations. You have to perform some feature engineering, which is basically another name for creating new attributes from the previous one. And then you have to make your data in the desirable form. Then you have to select your model. If it's a classification problem, it's a regression problem, then you have to select an algorithm for that. Then you have to do some optimization to actually tune your model, which would result in the improvement of your model. And then you have to validate it, deploy it, and then there's a continuous monitoring and improvement going on. So there's a quote by Andrew Ng, who is actually the founder of Coursera, and he's talking about the same thing, that basically coming up with the new features or with the attributes that are going to it's time consuming and it requires a lot of knowledge. So let me introduce Auto AI to you. When we're talking about how much hard work it is to actually solve a machine learning problem, that's where this Auto AI comes into play. So Susan also talked about it, that this tool just requires us to input our data. So for example, when we are if we are talking about some problem, let's say for this hands-on, we are talking about fraud prediction, which is a very practical use case in many parts of the world, that when you're either a bank is lending loan to someone, if a bank is providing $1 million loan or maybe $10,000 loan, they need to make sure that that customer can be trusted and that there is the minimum risk of fraud. So if we are talking about that problem, then you just need to have the relevant data set for that. And then you just input that data to Auto AI, and then it will automatically transform your data. It will, first of all, it will cleanse your data, so it will cater for the missing values and the duplicate values. And then it will automatically see if there is a need to create new features. So then it also does that. And then it basically, depending on your problem, it automatically provides you with the top performing algorithm. And then it does all of this parameter optimization, which I talked about, that these are some parameters which need to be tuned to actually increase the accuracy of your model. And then it creates some new features. So basically, there's a whole process that goes on, and I'll be demonstrating you in our hands-on part, so you will get a clear picture of that. And then it also gives you the option to save and deploy it for future use, so that you can use it in your application. So basically, all you have to do is to just collect data and then input it to Auto AI, and the rest of the job is for Auto AI, and you don't have to worry about it. So as I was talking about, obviously it builds everything faster. IBM provides you for Auto AI specifically, it provides you 8 virtual cores and 32 gigabytes of RAM. So there is a very fast performing machine for you as well to build and deploy your model. So everything is fast. And then there is this very prominent, I would say, feature that, whether you're a data scientist or you're just a data enthusiast, you don't need to worry about learning all the approaches, and you don't need to worry about, knowing the depth of each algorithm. So it will automatically provide you with the best ones, and then it will let you deploy your model with a few clicks. Then it has different features, like it ranks your models as well. So it basically gives you 8 different models, and then it rank them from 1 to 8, and then it's your choice to deploy whichever you want. And then it's different. It's basically performs feature engineering, hyperparameter optimization, and so on. So let's talk about today's use case. So as I mentioned earlier, we are predicting whether a customer would be a fraud risk or not. So we have this data set. I'm sure that you will be, and I hope that you have downloaded it by now, because I have provided you the link. The third link was of the data set. And then I would request Asna or maybe Ali to post the links again in the chat as well. So for those of you who have missed the links, maybe you can get it again. So we have this data set that has customer records. So each record or each row represents a customer, and there are different attributes like their age, I think if they're married or not, and some more attributes. And then we have the data set is basically, this is a classification problem. So we have the labeled data set. So for training part, we already know what kind of customers are a fraud risk or not. That basically means that it's a labeled data. Each customer has been labeled to be a fraud risk or not. So let's jump on to the hands-on part. Open my browser. For those of you who have joined late, let me just paste the links as well. Okay, so once you have logged into the IBM Cloud, this is how the dashboard looks like. It will be showing you some resources that you have provisioned, if there is any maintenance that is planned in the future, some news for you, like what's going on in the cloud and AI world. So before I jump on to the main services, this main navigation bar will be showing you different services that we have. And these are some domains regarding which we have these services. So we have compute services, we have clusters for Kubernetes and OpenShift, we have our virtual private cloud, we have different APIs and softwares for development of applications, and then we have our Watson platform. So this is basically the AI platform that we'll be using today. And it has a lot of services, from creating chatbot to basically NLU, VR, and then we have our data and AI studio, which is Watson Studio. So this is the Watson Studio that will be provisioning today. So let's just click on Watson Studio. If you're not able to follow each and every step, don't worry. I have provided you the link so that you can later on refer to that. So we have this plan that's already selected as Lite, which is a free plan, and in that we can get up to quad core, or basically 4 virtual CPUs and 16 gigabytes of RAM. And this is one way to basically provision it. I'm sorry, so I've logged out some way. Right, so sorry about that. I don't know why. Maybe because of my internet, I was offline for a minute. Okay, so let me just select the region Dallas. It's totally up to your preferences. I just like to use this region. Then we have this Lite plan, and let's click create. So again, Watson Studio is basically not just a single tool. It's a whole platform that gives you a lot of tools inside it. And let's just click get started. Can you please confirm if you can still see my screen and hear my voice without any noise? Asna, anybody, can you confirm that you can hear my voice and you can see the screen? Okay, so this is the IBM Cloud Pak for Data. It's been rebranded as IBM Cloud Pak for Data because it's
Huzaifah, we have a question. Someone is asking how Auto AI select automatic model selection.
So basically, it automatically detects the type of problem based on your data. I'll be showing you later on in the hands-on part, but then it has some standards from some universal standards basically that it has for each problem. For example, these are the top performing ones for classification. These are the top performing ones for regression. But what it does is it actually selects all of these algorithms, the top for our specific problem. It gives us that. I hope that answers the question. So let's just click create a project. Before I move on, this is basically the different services that we have regarding Watson. These are some projects that I've done. So it will be showing you an overview of what you've been doing using IBM CP for Data. So create a project. And as we are not using a sample or any other project files, so let's just click create an empty project. Let's name it Auto AI Test. You can name it anything you want as per your convenience. So yeah, before we add any asset or add any data, there should be a cloud storage that should be associated to our project. So it's also giving us the option to add it. So I'll just click add. This is the cloud object storage, which is necessary for storing any file, any notebook that you might create. The plan is already selected as Lite, and then click create. Excuse me. So it's already created the service. Let's just refresh it, and it will be showing here like this. So let's create the project. Excuse my internet, it's been misbehaving for 3 days. I don't know why. Okay, so this is the overall dashboard for our project, and it's showing us the overview where we can see our README files, our collaborators. So like if there is anybody else who's working with me on the same project. Then we have the assets. So assets in, of Watson Studio's term is anything, any resource. It could be data, it could be notebook, it could be an auto AI experiment, a machine learning model. Anything that you're using in your project is termed as an asset. So currently we don't have any data asset. Then it's showing us the environments. It supports various environments like Scala, Python, R, and then Spark with each of these languages as well. We have the options of, if there is any job that is running. So basically, if you've scheduled any machine learning model, any notebook, or any SPSS flow, then yeah, that is considered as a job. Then we have deployments. Currently, we don't have any. Then access controls for basically controlling the rights of your project. And then let's go to the settings. And here for the associated service, we have to add a service called Watson Machine Learning, this one. So Watson Machine Learning is basically the main service behind any AI or ML workload, because it provides you with the GPUs and these capabilities for auto AI and decision optimization. And then it also provides you with the basic frameworks like TensorFlow, Keras, or any algorithms. So the plan Lite is already selected. You can also see here, that's what I was talking about. It's also providing you with TensorFlow, Keras, Caffe, PyTorch, and etc. And Spark as well. So let's click create. The region is, it's highly recommended to use the same region when you're using two services together. So as I had Dallas for my Watson Studio or my CP4D service, so this should be Dallas as well. Service name can be anything you want. Let's click confirm. So today I'll be demonstrating how you can predict fraud using auto AI and then deploy that machine learning model. And I will be showing you its endpoint URL and the code snippet for Python, Java, JavaScript that you can use in your applications to basically access this model. You don't have to worry about the resources for this model, as it will be running on the cloud. So let's go to assets, and you can see that after we added machine learning, we now can add deep learning assets as well as auto AI. So let's click on add to project, since this is the main entry point, I would say, for our project, that whatever we want to add, whatever asset that we want to add in our project, we can add from this button. So this is, you can see the auto AI experiment. So let's click and add it. We don't have any sample, so let's name it anything you want. So that's what I was talking about, that 8 virtual cores and 32 gigabytes of RAM for this auto AI experiment, and it's absolutely free for you. So you don't need to worry about any cost. So let's just click create, and it will launch auto AI. So let's give it a data source. I have already posted the link for the data set. It's a CSV file. It's labeled as fraud dataset. I have it in my desktop, so I'll just upload it. So you can see
So
that.
Huzaifah, we have another question. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, please
It
go on.
says, as you know, AutoAI can automatically prepare data, apply machine learning algorithms, and build model pipelines best suited for your data sets and use cases. But how it's gonna work without machine learning algorithms?
I'm
Do you
sorry, I
want me
didn't.
to repeat the question?
Yeah, please repeat the question.
Okay, so the question is, it says, as you know, Auto AI can automatically prepare data, apply machine learning algorithms, and build model pipelines best suited for your data sets and use cases. But how it's gonna work without machine learning algorithms?
No, basically, it will use your machine learning algorithms to actually solve your problem. So, like, there is no tool that can work without machine learning algorithms. Like, I'm not sure if I understand your question correctly, but we basically, Auto AI uses industry standard machine learning algorithms to actually solve your problem. And what's the good point for you is that you don't know, first of all, you don't actually have to plan the approach. So you don't have to decide which algorithm you have to use, because there is a long list of algorithms out there in the AI world, and it will basically take a lot of expertise and a lot of knowledge to decide which algorithm works the best for you. And even then, you have to try 2 or 3 algorithms sometimes on your project to decide which one works the best. Let's suppose sometimes you will be applying XGBoost classifier. It gives you 84% accuracy. Maybe you can apply a random forest and it will give you 87% accuracy. So it's a hit and trial as well. But it takes a lot of experience, a lot of time. So Auto AI does all of that for you. It automatically gives you the best model, which is implementing the best or the top performing machine learning algorithm. I hope that answers the question.
Josefa, I think maybe I may also be wrong, but what I make out of this question, actually, it comes out that usually we are going in for the orthodox machine learning processes and AI processes which we used to do. They have been automated as far as we are concerned with Auto AI. So what I understand is that we just have to give an input of our data and a problem, and then it should also actually sort of polish our data and then find the algorithm most suited for it by itself, by iteration or otherwise. We don't have to do anything except that till the time a model comes out, and whether it solves our problem or not. If it does not, we again go back and modify our input data. Is that correct? If that is correct, that means actually we don't need any machine learning algorithms to be fed in by from our own
Yeah,
side. This is what I
exactly.
understand out of this question.
We don't have to decide anything other than the data. So everything will be done by Auto AI.
Right. Yeah, I think that this would clear out something. But in any case, Asna and we people will later on also try to find out what he exactly meant, so that you don't waste time right now today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So once our data set is uploaded, you can see that it basically, there a new div popped out, and it's asking me that what do I want to predict, and it has listed the attributes that it picked from our own data set. So we have this label, fraud risk. As I said, that it's a classification problem, so the data set will already be labeled, and that's why we have an attribute that is actually giving us what the desired outcome, I would say. So let's just click fraud risk, and you can see that from our data set, it's actually showing us that it's a binary classification problem. Binary means that we have only 2 outcomes, possible outcomes, either a yes or a no. So there is only 2 values for a class. And then we have the positive class as 1. So if there is a risk, then it's a 1, and then if there is not a risk, then it's a 0. And then the optimized metric that we are using. So basically, this metric is actually the standard that Auto AI will use to rank the algorithms or to rank the models. So whichever one would have the maximum accuracy would be listed at the top. But we can go to the experiment settings by clicking on the experiment setting button, and it will basically, we can change our splitting of data set. So currently it's using 90% of the data set for training, and then 10% of our data set from the same input data set as the testing or the holdout data. It's asking us the attributes that we want to include. We want to include each and every attribute. Then we have this prediction. So it's giving us the option to, if it's wrong, if Auto AI is wrong, it's also giving you the option to choose your own type of problem. So it's saying that, okay, I think it's a binary classification problem, but if it's not, don't worry, you can always select multi-class. Or if it's a regression problem, you can select it as a regression. But it's already selected as the binary classification. Then we have our positive value. So for example, if it's in our data set, if it's a 1, then it's a fraud risk. If it's 0, then it's not a fraud risk. And then this is the metric. You can select F1 or precision or anything to be the criteria for ranking the models, but accuracy is recommended for a specific reason. So basically, in most of our problems, we always prefer the accurate one, the most accurate one, because sometimes it could happen that the model having the most accuracy could have recall, less recall, or maybe less precision. Maybe there could be a pipeline that had lesser accuracy but more precision. So, but usually, what's a more concrete metric is accuracy. So it's always suggested to keep accuracy as the condition or as the criteria to rank your algorithms. And you can see that it's giving me some of the classifiers for the problem. So these are some of the classifiers that are performing really well out there in the world. We have decision trees, we have random forest I was talking to you about, we have XGBoost, we have the normal light gradient boosting, we have logistic regression. All of these are classification problems. So it's asking us whether we want to exclude any algorithm. So we don't know what each of these algorithm is good for. So let's just keep every algorithm in the suggestion. And then it's asking us algorithms should it choose. So the way it works is it basically picks the top 2 algorithms and then it creates 4 different models for each. If we select 4, then it will basically generate 16 pipelines or 16 models. For the sake of time, let's just keep it as 2. And then we have an option to basically select our runtime version as well. So basically, how many iterations or how many epochs should our model go through? Let Auto AI decide it. Let's just save settings because we didn't change anything. And then click Run Experiment. So you can see that we just input our data and we told Auto AI that we want to predict fraud, the attribute fraud. And now it's automatically, it will split our data set, it will clean it, it will transform or engineer any new features as per requirement, and then it will start creating new models. This is the relationship map. It's basically relationship map and the progress map. It's a 2 different ways to actually look at or basically monitor the progress of our Auto AI experiment. I prefer to use the progress map. So I'm just going to swap the view. So you can see that it's showing us that it has read our data set and it's now splitting our data. Now it's reading our training data. It will pre-process it. It's pretty fast, and it also depends on your internet as well, no doubt, because like how quickly are you going to be able to see the results. And now it's selecting our model, the top two ones. So first of all, it chose the gradient boosting classifier, and then it just created the first model or the first pipeline without any optimization, any feature engineering. And then it created the second model by applying feature engineering, parameter optimization on the first one, on the pipeline one. So up till now, you can see the star on P2. It means that up till now, the pipeline 2 is like the top performing one. You can see that its accuracy is like 92%. And the enhancement that it had was the hyperparameter optimization. You can later on go to the Auto AI documentation. I would highly recommend you to do that if you are interested in exploring it more. It will give you a lot of other information regarding what kind of parameter optimization it does, what kinds of feature engineering it does. You can also you're also able to explore the feature engineering part, but to study more about like their mathematical concepts, and you can always go to the documentation of Auto AI. So right now, pipeline 3 has been ranked the first, since its accuracy is 93%. Now you can see sometimes people think that the more tuning that you do on your model, the accuracy will increase. But we can see from this example that it's not always true. The Auto AI actually implemented parameter optimization on our model 3, or basically on our pipeline 3, but that actually reduced the accuracy. That's why P3 is still the top performing one. So there's always a lesson in these things, no matter if they're automated, but you can always learn some trends or some patterns in your problems. So the second algorithm it chose was random forest classifier. Now, I have worked in those two algorithms, so I have come across scenarios where random forest was performing better than LGBM or any gradient boosting algorithm. So let's see if it is the same thing for our problem as well. Up till now, the pipeline 3 from the LGBM classifier is the top performing one. Or by the way, each of the pipeline is basically, you can see that it's built on the same pattern for each algorithm. The pipeline 1 was built on the same pattern as pipeline 5. There is no enhancement, just the raw implementation of the algorithm on our data set and our model. You can see how quickly it's building the models. So for example, the pipeline 3, the whole model building just took 32 seconds, which is pretty good, which is pretty fast actually. And so it seems like so our pipeline 8 resulted in like to be the top one. So its accuracy is 93.4%, and it's a random forest classifier. So our doubt was correct. Random forest was better performing than LGBM, even in our case. So we can, so this is the experiment summary. We can also go to the pipeline comparison, where we can get a really good idea of different metrics of how each pipeline was performing. So let's explore the pipeline 8. You just hover your mouse and it will basically draw the line where your pipeline is. So you can see that's the top one, like with the most accuracy. But let me show you the example of why I was saying that accuracy is actually suggested or recommended. You can see this precision. You can see that our pipeline 8 actually came second when it comes to precision. It was first in everything, but it came second when it comes to precision. And there could be a various reason. It could be something related to the mathematics behind the algorithm. We cannot be sure about that, but that's why the accuracy was the suggested or basically the recommended criteria. So if we had chosen precision, it would have actually given us pipeline 6, which you can see that is not as accurate as even pipeline 4 or pipeline 3. So if we had chosen precision, we would be actually choosing not an accurate pipeline. So let's just click on the pipeline 8 and let's see if we can deploy it. So there we have two options. We can either save it as a model directly, or we can save it as a notebook. If we want to, if there is some reason that you are more interested in the code, so it will actually create a notebook with every library imported, with every function declared, with everything working. So let's just create a model. You can keep the name as per your preference. Let's click save. Okay, is there something wrong with my internet? I think so. Let me try to reload the page. Yes, it was something definitely wrong with my internet. Let me go back to the project and see if I can load the pages properly. Come on. Finally. Okay, let me just open the experiment. Oh, I think it already deployed the model. I think I remember seeing it in the machine learning models. Yeah, so it has deployed our model, but because of my internet, it wasn't loading the page. So we have this model right now, and we can right-click on it, and we can click on deploy to deploy it on the cloud, so that we can have to basically access our model or score our model using our application. So it's currently showing us that our model is not deployed. Let's just click add deployment. I apologize for my internet conditions. Let's name it anything. For predicted, it will be deployed as a web service. It will have a URL so that you can, score your model through that URL. Once it's deployed, its status will be initializing. But meanwhile, we can click on our deployment to explore it. So let's just click on our deployment. So it's still giving us the status of initializing. Once it's ready, we will be able to see its URL. Currently, we can also see its model ID. That is required when you're accessing it through any external application. Let me refresh the page and see if it's deployed. And if my internet is not showing it to me. Meanwhile, it's deploying. Let me go back to the model. And yeah, so meanwhile it's deploying, let me go back to the model and show you its overview as well. So basically, this is how our model, once it's built it looks like this. We have our model type, so it's a hybrid model. You can run it on-prem or you can run it on cloud as well. And then it's also showing us the different inputs that are used in building our model. It's runtime environment, what was the date that we trained, and what was the machine learning service that we used. We haven't evaluated it yet, so there is no results as well as no metrics. And then we have our deployment ready. Let's go and see. Let me show you. Yeah, exactly. So let me show you the implementation. This is the URL that basically that you can call using your API. It also provides you the code snippets as well. So if you're accessing the model, this deployed model using curl commands, it will give you the curl command as well. You can see it's giving you each and everything. And then if you're a fan of Java, I am not, so it also gives you that as well. And for me, it's Python. So it also gives you the code to input or to embed in your basically application, and then that way you can always score this model. Or basically, once you have built an application that deals with this sort of data, so if you want to check if the customer is fraud risk or not, you can just input that, call our model, and then give this the input row or the customer record, and it will give you the output as whether it's a fraud risk or not. So yes, that's majorly about it. Due to shortage of time, we couldn't cover like each and everything in detail, but that's like the whole overview. That's why I've also posted the link in the chat as well, so that you can later on explore the tutorial, and it talks in detail about the auto AI. And Susan also shared some links regarding auto AI as well. So these are some useful links as well. We have our developer site, developeribm.com. It's basically a very good resource for all of you because it has blogs, articles, code patterns, tutorials regarding almost every tool there is as far as open source is concerned. And of course, it already consists everything regarding IBM offerings as well. So if it's regarding AI, data analytics, data science, microservices, cloud native, you please, I would suggest that you visit this website so that you can find anything that excites you. Then we have the meetup link. We have these two websites as well. These offer courses regarding AI and machine learning, and even cloud native development as well. So these are good learning resources. Then we have these auto AI resources as well, so you can explore more about auto AI. I think Susan has shared these links. So that's about it from my side. If there is any question, then please you can ask me right now. Otherwise, we will proceed on to the next session. Let me also post my email address in the chat so that you can contact me for any inquiries, or if you want to discuss about something, you can always reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Huzaifah, just a moment. Actually, IBM, Asna knows it, is very dear to me because one of my colleagues who was a UET graduate, 72 UET Lahore, he was the boss of IBM for quite some time. I think he was first or second one, but he unfortunately died because of cancer about 3 years ago. Fayaz was his name, and Fayaz Malik. So IBM is somehow or the other engraved into our blood because of him, because he was one of the most liked persons, amiable one in our class. Anyway, my point is, where do you stand as far as IBM Cloud? And I mean, from what I've seen today, from Susan's as well as your speech and your note, hands-on also. It's so impressive.
Huzaifah, were you able to answer this question? Someone asked you to how to choose the best model for a particular data set.
Um,
Asna, can I complete my so you can take on a little later? Asna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, I think maybe I lost you there
Oh, I'm
somewhere.
sorry
So
because I think
yeah.
my video was off. So I was just talking to Huzaifah, and I said the IBM, despite being a special, I mean, favorite to us, at least me, uh, the Microsoft Azure is more aggressive in its marketing and all that stuff. Whereas I feel that your expertise as well as the strength is much more than that, especially in the AI. I can see that. We have been, I mean, for the last 2 years in a row, Lahore Garrison University has been declared as best university in Pakistan as far as their Imagine Cup is concerned. My point is, we recently shifted on to IBM also, and we have started off. But how would you compare your marketing campaign as far as MS is concerned? Because I feel it's much more easier, much more open, the way especially Susan spoke. And let's have a collaborative sort of an arrangement, just as we did with MS. Is it possible?
yeah, sure. We will. Asna, would you want to answer that?
That's a very good question, sir. Basically, the thing is that firstly, IBM Cloud is relatively new as compared to other cloud platforms, that is AWS and Azure and even Google Cloud. So it's relatively new, but right now, the IBM Cloud came into being like a proper platform or a channel in 2013. So before that, we did had Watson and everything, but the cloud platform is relatively new and it's still, improving day by day. And the thing is that, yeah, and since we were a little late in the market, so a lot of people think that because IBM is a big tech giant, it's not easily available or accessible by, young developers or students, or even the universities think that, oh my God, it's IBM, it would be very costly as compared to Microsoft. You say everything, you look around the windows and you say, oh, it's Microsoft, it's easily accessible because of the Windows persona. And if you even take the Google Cloud, people think that, oh, Google is pretty easy because we can access Google from anywhere. The thing is that how come why is IBM Cloud different? Firstly, it's as you can see, it's pretty easy. The UI is very smooth, it's very easy, and the best part about IBM Cloud is that it's open source. So you can collaborate with anything and any service or any other platform, and you guys can integrate. You don't have to completely adopt IBM Cloud to develop your applications, or to go and test a service or whatever you want to do. You don't have to shift completely over the platform. What you can do is you can use some services of IBM Cloud and integrate them with some services of Microsoft Azure, even for AWS. So yeah, that's there. And yeah, we would really love to collaborate with Lahore Garrison University and other universities as well. That's what we are doing. And hence the team is here on ground in Pakistan as compared to other platforms. For example, Azure or Microsoft don't have a on-ground team available here. They do provide online support, but when it comes to on-ground team, they don't have that. And for that, we have an upper hand there. And obviously, since the whole developers, they can come there, they can uh, take our help, they can reach out to us, because I think you get more connected when you're with local people. For example, if it's a Pakistani helping another Pakistani, it's more वन ऑन वन रादर देन कि हम लोग का वो है ना कि अच्छा वो तो वहाँ मतलब बाहर कोई बैठा हुआ है और वो हेल्प कर रहा है, तो वो कनेक्शन नहीं बनता. सो व्हेन यू सी कि अगर एक पाकिस्तानी फेलो है जो कि आपकी हेल्प कर सकता है एक चीज के अंदर, सो दैट्स मोर मोर लाइक अ कनेक्शन. बाकी IBM जो है currently we believe in collaboration. We think that none of the other cloud platforms are like our competitors, rather than we are more of a we go with the collaboration thing. कुछ services हमारी अच्छी होंगी, कुछ बाकी cloud platforms की अच्छी होंगी. So we won't say that we are the perfect cloud platform, but what we prefer is, or what we say is, go with the best possible options. So whatever other platforms are giving better options, go with them, and then look how IBM cloud services are better, and collaborate them and come up with a good solution that is sustainable, flexible, and it works for the long term.
Like, Asna, thank you very much for that. But I have 3 points on this. I think if they would be more aligned with our joint collaboration and effort, one that I would say, IBM was a giant and still is giant, and it started off. So Microsoft came in late, right?
Mhm.
So you had already had the market. I remember my first encounter with IBM was IBM 370 when it was brought into Lahore Garrison, Lahore UET Lahore, and we were not allowed to see it. We could only see it from the windows. I mean, that was the time when IBM was here. IBM was all over the world as a pioneer, but Microsoft took over. So I think it's the right time now to challenge them and get back in the driving seat. So that's one point. You said you are late. You are not late. I mean, I think the type of people you have in the drive you have, I don't see anything that you cannot compete. One. Second is we have to find a niche market for yourself, because a few months back we had an IBM person from Germany who was, I think, employed in Germany, a Pakistani German national, and he introduced us to IBM, and I actually liked it so much that we are jointly making a lot of projects with them. And third, my point is, let Huzaifah put the data of Microsoft Azure, AMU, and everybody along with IBM into the auto AI, and let's find the best model where we can actually make everybody look towards us. So I think Huzaifah has a challenge now. Let's use auto AI to find out how can we go ahead in the marketing and and recapture your position, which was in our time. And this actually stems from, again, my special relationship with IBM because of Fayaz Malik. Anyway, thank you very much. It was wonderful,
Yeah.
Huzaifah. The confidence and the way you knew the subject, it was, I think, commendable.
Huzaifah, I would take this moment and say that Huzaifah is one of our best resources in data science in terms of developer advocacy,
Thank you.
and he is well trained, mashallah, and he knows what he is doing. So that's the best thing about him. So anyone
He
has
proved
had
it.
any
Asna,
question,
he
yes,
just proved it. But
definitely.
yes, another one very important point I just missed out. I wrote it here. And that was, you were telling about some daily activities of IBM, like, for example, you were telling me that someday you have an auto AI subject, and then some machine learning and all that stuff. But it's not documented, It's not documented. We do not know any newsletter, or for that matter, any information. I just do not have any information on that.
Well,
So if people are
we
interested, then
informed CGI about it. I think maybe probably we can, again let Imran know about this, and he can share that. We started this almost 3 months ago in the end of March. So that's when we started it. What we are doing is we are doing webinars on daily basis on different topics. So it's
no, that's
like,
exactly, Asna. Asna, exactly I wanted to say. Uh, it's not CDI or an LGU. I mean, we are just sitting here because we have come across many new ideas and many things because we have been talking to people. But my point is, that's aggressive marketing. 3 months ago, you should have started 6 months ago that we are going to do these webinars. This
well,
is
actually, sir, the thing is that because of the pandemic, we had to adapt to this new normal. Before that, we were doing the on live events on ground on the spot. So because of the pandemic, we had to adapt to this new normal and the new ways of learning and new ways of reaching out to developers.
try us.
We
Asna,
Yes,
Asna, try us. We are very aggressive marketers, just like aggression is in our blood because of the military background. So let's
uh,
try.
for
Okay.
sure, for sure. We can, we'll do
That was on the
wonders.
lighter side, by the way. Anyway, thank you very much once again.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Huzaifah. And for all of those who were able to follow the workshop, that's really good. For those who were not able to follow right now, I think this recording would be available on Facebook, right? Aga, correct me if I'm wrong. And so moving on, we'll be going for another hands-on workshop. But before that, we'll take like a 5 minutes break, right, Aga?
Yeah, sure, if you want.
Okay, so and then we'll come back for another workshop.
Okay. Thank you.